Elon Musk, the billionaire entrepreneur known for Tesla, SpaceX, and his bold opinions, has stirred the internet once again. This time, it's not about rockets or electric cars. Instead, he's taking on something that affects all of us: inflation. According to Musk, government overspending is the main reason prices keep going up. What does he mean by this? And is he right? Stick around as we break this down in simple terms. Let's dive into what Elon Musk said. Elon Musk recently posted on social media claiming that government overspending is the real cause of inflation. For those unfamiliar, inflation is when the prices of everyday things like food, rent, and gas go up, and the value of your money goes down. It makes everything more expensive, and your paycheck doesn't stretch as far as it used to. Now, Musk's statement has sparked a huge debate. He argues that when governments spend more money than they have, it creates a ripple effect that leads to inflation. But why is this happening? And does his argument hold water? Let's unpack it step by step. What is inflation? Before we dig deeper, let's understand what inflation actually is. Imagine this. You used to buy a loaf of bread for $1 last year, but today, that same loaf costs $1.50. That's inflation in action. It happens when prices rise across the board, not just for one or two items, but for everything you spend money on. Inflation isn't always a bad thing. A small, steady rise in prices is normal for a healthy economy. But when it gets out of control, like what we've seen in some countries, it can make life really hard for regular people. What causes inflation? Economists generally point to two main reasons for inflation: demand pull and cost push. Demand pull inflation. This happens when more people want to buy things than there are things to sell. Think of it like Black Friday shopping. If everyone wants the same TV, stores might increase the price because demand is high. Cost push inflation. This occurs when the cost of making goods goes up. For example, if oil prices rise, transporting goods becomes more expensive, and those higher costs are passed on to consumers. But Elon Musk is pointing to a third, less discussed factor: government overspending. Let's explore what that means. What is government overspending? Government overspending happens when a government spends more money than it collects through taxes and other income. Just like when a person spends more than they earn, this creates a financial gap, often leading to borrowing or debt. Every government has a budget, a plan for how much money it will spend and where. This budget helps fund essential services like schools, hospitals, roads, and national defense. Sometimes, though, the government may spend more than planned. This could be due to unexpected events like natural disasters, economic crises, or increased funding for social programs. While these extra expenses might be necessary, they can lead to overspending if not balanced by enough income. Overspending is not always bad in the short term. For example, during economic downturns, governments often spend more to support businesses, create jobs, and help struggling citizens. This approach, called stimulus spending, can boost the economy and prevent worse problems. However, if overspending continues for a long time, it can lead to serious challenges. One major issue with constant overspending is debt. To cover the gap, governments borrow money, often by issuing bonds. This borrowing adds up over time and creates national debt. High debt can be risky because the government must spend more money on interest payments, leaving less for public services. Additionally, heavy borrowing can weaken a country's financial stability, leading to higher taxes or reduced services in the future. Another problem is inflation. When governments overspend without careful planning, it can increase the amount of money circulating in the economy. This might cause prices to rise, making everyday goods and services more expensive for people. In conclusion, government overspending occurs when expenses exceed income, often requiring borrowing to cover the gap. While it can be helpful during emergencies or economic slumps, excessive or prolonged overspending can lead to debt, inflation, and financial challenges. Careful budgeting and responsible spending are key to avoiding these problems and maintaining a healthy economy. Musk's example, printing money. Let's make it even simpler. Imagine a small town with 10 apples and $100 in circulation. Each apple would cost $10. But if the town suddenly printed an extra $100 without producing more apples, there's now $200 chasing the same 10 apples. What happens? The price of each apple doubles to $20. That's essentially what Musk is saying about inflation. When governments overspend, they either borrow heavily or print extra money, which floods the economy and drives up prices. Does history support Musk's claim? There are examples from history that seem to back up Musk's argument. Let's take a quick look. Weimar Germany, 1920s. After World War I, Germany printed so much money to pay its debts that bread prices went from a few marks to billions of marks overnight. This hyperinflation wiped out people's savings. Zimbabwe, 2000s. In Zimbabwe, the government printed excessive money to fund its spending, leading to massive inflation. At one point, a loaf of bread cost billions of Zimbabwean dollars. United States, 2020s. In recent years, the US government spent trillions on pandemic relief and other programs. While this helped people in the short term, critics argue it contributed to rising inflation rates. Counterarguments to Musk's view. Of course, not everyone agrees with Musk. Some experts argue that inflation isn't just about government spending. Other factors, like supply chain disruptions, rising energy costs, and global events like wars, also play a big role. Economists also point out that not all government spending is bad. Investments in infrastructure, education, and healthcare can boost the economy in the long run, even if they cause short-term inflation. What can be done about inflation? Whether you agree with Musk or not, inflation is a real problem that needs solving. Here are some common strategies governments use. 1. Raising interest rates. Central banks like the Federal Reserve increase interest rates to make borrowing money more expensive, which slows down spending. 2. Cutting government spending. Governments can reduce their budgets to avoid overspending. 3. Encouraging production. By making it easier for businesses to produce goods, governments can balance supply and demand. Why Musk's opinion matters. So, why should we care about what Elon Musk says? As one of the world's richest and most influential people, Musk's opinions often shape public debates. Whether you agree with him or not, his statements get people talking about important issues like inflation and government spending. Inflation affects everyone, from the richest billionaire to the average worker. Whether Elon Musk's claim about government overspending being the main cause of inflation is entirely correct or not, it's a conversation worth having. What do you think? Is Musk onto something, or is there more to the story? Thanks for watching today's episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more updates on breaking news and big ideas. See you next time.